I would argue, first of all, that Brexit isn't just a random moment when the electorate went mad and voted on a box. If you look at our Olympic gold medals, every single country that's ascended to power has shown it in medal tables beforehand. It's a national aspiration, a national intent that's harnessed through sport. So I would argue Brexit is not just a random moment. It's an aspiration that Britain wishes to be more. Its power base has grown since 1970, and it wished to be included in the EU, and it attempted to do it inside the EU initially. The EU rejected that policy because it's centred around Germany, and therefore we ended up with the leaving process. This process is not an easy process. It's an acrimonious divorce. And acrimonious divorces always end up with destruction. The EU cannot let Britain leave on any terms that we think it will work under. And we ourselves have a problem because the electorate is not represented by Parliament. The percentages we see that seem small were more significant because it was a group of people actually rebelling against government information and government knowledge on a huge scale. So it wasn't just 52%. If it had been an even fight, it would have been far greater, I would argue.
So you think the odds are pretty high that we ultimately leave without a deal then? Because neither side is going to see eye to eye.
It's been inevitable. Absolutely inevitable from the beginning. It's something I've talked about for a year. And although it's really difficult, everyone hopes for a better outcome, everyone wishes for a better outcome. In these situations where there's an imbalance of intention, the acrimony comes out and it always ends up in the worst place.
You also talk about a modern day enemy and you single out China, which is surprising because there are other options. I mean, you know, Russia obviously a contender, and if you look even around the splintering of politics around Europe, swing far right and far left, perhaps a European country could be seen as a contender as well. So just explain why China is the enemy.
Okay, enemy is a very strong word. They're not our enemy right now. They're a strategic competitor.
Well, you said China is a modern day Germany. Germany was the enemy.
No, that's your intonation. Germany became the enemy, but prior to that it was a strategic competitor. So right now China is a strategic competitor to America and Western value systems that support the American regime and process. And I've been talking about it since my first book, Breaking the Code of History. In fact, in 2003, when we sat here on March the 13th, and I talked about who would be the next buyers of the stock market cycle, we had this conversation about the rise of China and what it would really mean. And all of these processes start with demographic expansion, they start with economic expansion, and they start with the next process is the requirement to resource that population. So you build a resource chain, which is the Belt and Road system. It relies on a land-based system because they don't have control of the sea at the moment. It's the one thing the US Navy controls. But believe me, when they have a bigger Navy, it'll be sea-based too. They seek to globally resource themselves like Britain and America to compete. And at the same time, Obama's weak leadership has drawn out the intention of the Chinese to the point where they've militarized and expanded. And if you go and speak to the Uyghurs, they're not having a particularly nice time under Chinese leadership whatsoever. They've been reconditioned in the way that Germans were in concentration camps. So this idea that there's a benevolent transition of power, and if you look around the Pacific Rim, all the countries in the Pacific Rim are responding with an arms race. Australia, for example, has the biggest arms program and naval development program that we've seen in its history since the Second World War. So there is an immediate danger in the region, and even the Royal Navy is now involved in, you know, the freedom of the seas and the protocols that go around it. So it's an immediate issue to us.
Hi, I'm Joanna Bersecci and thank you for watching. You can check out more of our videos by clicking on the boxes on the screen. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more from CNBC International. Thank you for watching.